York State is rich with an abundance of natural resources and breathtaking scenery. We enjoy clean air, pure water, wetlands and forests teeming with fish and wildlife. No advanced technology can ever duplicate the priceless assets that only our fragile Earth can produce and nurture. But with the privilege of living in a safe and healthy environment comes a responsibility. We all have an obligation to protect and manage these precious gifts for ourselves and our future generations. Unfortunately, not everyone shares this vision. It is a constant struggle to stop those who commit abusive acts against the environment. We're lucky in New York State to have environmental conservation officers as our first line of defense against these criminals. The officers of the Department of Environmental Conservation are fully empowered to enforce all New York laws, but their specialized training uniquely qualifies them to deal with environmental statutes. The roots of today's environmental conservation officer can be traced back more than a century to 1880. The 1800s were a time of population explosion, unregulated commercial hunting and land clearing. It all took a heavy toll on wildlife. Lacking protection, many species such as white-tailed deer, wild turkey, timber wolf, and most birds of prey became scarce. Some were completely wiped out. State legislators recognized the crisis and responded with our earliest fish and wildlife laws. Professionals hired to enforce them became part of the landscape. These 8 men were the first of their kind in the nation. The early days were filled with adventure and adversity, but the effort was not without peril. Many lost their lives at the hands of poachers or through the forces of nature. The job remained virtually unchanged for 82 years. In 1962, the title Conservation Officer was adopted, and the department began a decade of growth. The 60s were a volatile time, with change occurring in all facets of life. In this time of consciousness raising, citizens were becoming increasingly aware of the devastating effects of pollution. Resources that had once been seen as unlimited were now viewed in jeopardy. The public demanded more regulation and stricter enforcement to protect diminishing resources. In 1972, those entrusted to protect our natural resources were granted full police powers. The newly titled Environmental Conservation Officers were anxious to meet the growing challenge fueled by the creation of increasingly complex environmental laws. Today, responsibilities are constantly evolving as new laws are enacted and the enforcement of old ones becomes more critical. On any given day, an officer's duties may range from checking fishing licenses and deer tags to protecting endangered species.
These were either found in a market or coming through an airport and seized from individuals who were attempting to sell them. There are many people that might even be watching this that know of something like this in a household or a friend's household. There's no problem with having this for your own. You may have gotten it from a member of the family and they would say it was pre-act. That means it was acquired before the animal was listed as endangered or threatened, probably pre-1970s. The problem with these items is when they're sold, there's no way to tell when they were acquired. And as long as they are sold, there's going to be a market in these products. The Endangered Species Act and our law enforcement is there to make sure that the market doesn't continue in them. That would jeopardize the population of the animal.
Conservation officer.
Because they work out of their homes, officers are available to the public 24 hours a day. Patrol sectors encompass several hundred miles and may include various townships, cities, and wilderness areas. You'll find an ECO hiking in the Adirondacks, forging a stream in western New York, piloting a boat on Long Island Sound, or walking the streets of New York City. Most conservation officers will tell you they wouldn't trade their job for anything. But like all police work, there are inherent dangers. Less than 250 uniformed officers and 35 investigators enforce the environmental laws statewide. They're often on their own, with the nearest backup many miles away. Conservation officers routinely face citizens with loaded firearms and are 6 times as likely to be assaulted. Common sense, self-reliance, and creative thinking are conditions of the job. Even against these odds, the Department of Environmental Conservation Division of Law Enforcement has an outstanding officer safety record. This is testimony to the excellent training they receive. The 26-week basic training school is a demanding regimen, heralded as one of the best in the nation. Experienced law enforcement and criminal justice professionals from many different agencies serve as academy instructors. Recruits learn all the skills they'll need to succeed in this demanding profession. Training topics include many that would be found in any basic police academy. Physical conditioning and defensive tactics are part of the daily routine. Several weeks are dedicated solely to the recognition and handling of firearms. A demonstrated proficiency with a number of different weapons is required. Every aspect of training is important, but it's the strong emphasis on environmental issues that sets this academy apart. Topics ranging from navigation and boat patrol to trapping, hunting, and fishing are all covered. How often is a police officer asked to navigate using a map and compass or teach the finer points of proper boat handling and water safety? Finish that and head out to investigate a report of illegal dumping. This is an average day for a conservation officer. Knowledge of natural history and the ability to identify different species is important, both for enforcement purposes and to fulfill the educational mission of the department. All of the basic skills and special patrol tactics are covered in depth. There are no wasted moments during this intense academy experience. Once in the field, officers use sophisticated tools to enforce statutes and investigate incidents. Conflicting stories often emerge following a hunting-related accident. Determining what happened is sometimes a difficult task. Using laser technology, the path of a bullet can be traced to pinpoint the relative position of the victim and shooter. Combined with good investigative work, fact is more easily separated from fiction. DNA testing is another often used evidence-gathering technique. Wildlife decoys have proven to be very effective in the fight to curb illegal road hunting. The scope of a conservation officer's responsibilities includes a broad range of activities. The day starts early at New York's famous Fulton Fish Market.
Well, we make sure that the fish that they're selling are of legal size, that during the open season, that some of the shellfish from certain countries they can't sell because, like from Europe, it's polluted. So we try to check everything that's here and make sure that it complies with New York State and federal regulations.
From land to sea, they enforce the fishing statutes.
You guys making out pretty well?
Yes, we got about 16 fish.
How many?
16.
16?
Yes.
Nice.
All that size.
Excellent.
We don't keep those short.
Fishing with mussels?
Mussels.
Yeah?
We use.
Good. This seems to be the hot spot today, huh?
Yeah, out there. We got another spot out there.
We got 2 or 3 spots we go.
Uh-huh. Most of the fish are legal that you're catching?
Yes, every one.
Excellent.
Every one, 11, 12. And the biggest one I got is 3 pounds, 2 ounces.
Excellent.
Good fishing.
Take care.
Go get them. Catch them.
They investigate incidents of illegal discharges into our surface and groundwaters, air pollution, solid waste disposal, pesticide and mining violations. Monitoring these activities are all within the jurisdiction of the Department of Environmental Conservation. Enforcement may involve investigating hazardous materials and medical waste violations, or making a compliance check of the returnable container law. Conservation officers perform many other duties beyond enforcement activities. They engage in public relations efforts, information and education, and search and rescue operations. When they're not investigating hunting incidents, they're trying to prevent them through hunter safety courses. Youth conservation programs help ensure that the adults of tomorrow respect the environment and have the knowledge to help preserve it.
What do you guys do right away, though, before you take the deer out? What are you going to do? The first thing you're going to do?
Get behind it and poke it in the eye. See if it's still alive.
Yeah, you want to make sure it's dead, of course. But and after that, you're going to tag it, right?
Yeah.
First thing.
Yeah.
Before you gut it or drag it out or anything, you put your tag on, okay?
Yep. We got a book, man.
Officers don't just patrol sectors. They live in the communities they serve. Each one has a personal stake in making sure our laws are enforced fairly and our natural resources are conserved. Every member of society has a responsibility to protect our fragile earth. The men and women of the Division of Law Enforcement for the Department of Environmental Conservation are dedicated to accomplishing this mission. Their success in meeting this goal allows all of us to reap the benefits of a safe and healthy environment.
How many of you realize there was a time before we came when the forest lay unbroken from the ocean to the plains, when the red man was a ruler and the eagle was a king, and the rivers flowed untended from the mountains to the sea. Well, there's those of us who realize that we come to change the land, and there's trouble in the making that we hardly understand. Oh, the red man, he is fewer